Hello, and welcome to another amazing Rethink Retail webinar with very special guests from Ingenico and Burlington stores. I'm your host, Jeremy Bergstein, CEO, founder of the Science Project, retail innovation agency. For the last 15 years, we've been creating breakthrough retail experiences for brands and retailers, hospitality, from physical stores to e-commerce and every part of the customer journey in between. Today, we'll be tackling what it takes to make payments simple, secure, and truly multi-channel. Shoppers expect fast, flexible, secure checkout experiences. And on this panel, we're going to take a deep dive and explore into how that's achievable. So joining me today, three outstanding retail experts, including Mark Bunney at Ingenico, Paula Angelucci at Burlington stores, and fellow top retail expert, Andrea Leigh. So we're just going to go around. I just want everybody to introduce themselves and what they do, and we're going to get into it here. Why don't we start with Paula?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Paula Angelucci, and I am a retail field leader. My expertise is really being in the front line with the teams, always in the field. So I feel like I always bring a little bit of a different perspective to the conversation. I am in the off-price space right now, so I'll be able to share some perspective around that. My background includes big box, specialty, and startup.
Awesome. Thanks, Paula. Andrea?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Andrea Leigh, founder and CEO of the Illume Group, and we are an education and consultancy agency. We work with brands, retailers, and agencies on digital commerce strategy.
Thanks, Andrea. And finally, Mark from Ingenico.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. I'm Mark Bunney. I lead our global retail strategy for Ingenico, which is really focused on what types of solutions and how we want to go to market, not only in North America, but also in Europe. I've worked for software and technologies companies over for the last 20 plus years in the retail and hospitality industries.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. We're definitely going to have a lot of interesting, exciting answers with this range of participants. So let's get into it. There's so many things to talk about in the world of retail, but if the checkout experience is not rock solid, it all comes tumbling down. I think we know that. We're just going to start out with almost a general question around critical factors that retailers need to consider when trying to align in-store and online payment experiences. Andrea, you're really on the front lines, off-price, big box. That's really where there's such specific customer behavior around this. Can you give us an overview of those critical factors retailers need to consider?
Yeah, I guess my first reaction would be, do they need to be aligned or should they be different? So if you think about the shopper experience, even just looking back at during my years at Amazon, and thinking like the shopper, Amazon's focused on having really differentiated payments and checkout experience across in-store, pay with your palm and just walk out technology and online. And so I think in a lot of cases, they actually should be different. So it's really about thinking like the shopper. The shopper isn't really distinguishing between channels. They just want it to be fast and safe and easy and secure. But I think more specific needs really differ across the different channels where the shopper has been interacting. I think one thing we know for sure is that it needs to be really easy, because Amazon's trained us all with the one-click gratification, and that sort of shaped expectations across all retailers.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Really appreciate that. Mark, you're coming in with just a completely different perspective over here and building enterprise over here. For you, what are the most critical factors retailers need to consider? What concerning aligning in store and online?
Yeah, I think it's truly understanding how their customer wants to purchase and get the product, mapping out the different use case or journeys that the consumer might go, whether it's buying online and then doing pickup at curb, is really important. I think for a retailer to understand it, so they can determine how they provide that immersive commerce experience. If you look at it over the last few years, grocery has really changed from a consumer journey perspective. It used to be you wanted to go to the grocery store, you go, you pick up, and you leave. Now, both the online as well as the in-store experience has dramatically changed. I mean, online you can order and pick up at curbside. You can order and have it delivered. Even the in-store experience where now you have more self-checkout or you could have kiosks or even mobile-based solutions is changing that experience. So I think at the end of the day, it's like retailers just have to really understand these journeys, but it's not a one-time effort. This is as the market continues to evolve, they have to look at it's like, okay, how will this look? It looks like today, but how will it look in 18 months? It will probably look different. I mean, we're all consumers and we change. Our behavior constantly changes. So I think that's what's tough is having that viewpoint today and then keeping up with the market.
Yeah, I mean, said so much good stuff over there. And I love the grocery use cases. I mean, it is such a fascinating reflection on how we shop. So thank you very much. Paula, I apologize. I meant to I you work a lot with big box, you work a lot with off-price stores, and it's also just such a fascinating use case. From your perspective, what are you seeing in these critical factors in aligning in-store and online checkout?
I mean, I think the big takeaway here is really making it as seamless as possible so that, what you're doing online really aligns with what's happening, in the brick and mortar stores. I think the big key to everything is really around the frontline teams and how we are training them. We can have all of the great buy now, pay later apps in the world and all the great options. But I think if we aren't training our teams to really use the technology to make it seamless for the customer, we're going to miss. We're going to miss out, and our customer's going to know that. So, really using multiple training options to get your teams up and ready is super important.
Awesome. Obviously, the risks are many if we don't align them successfully. Customers notice whether we know it or whether they know it or not. Andrea, what are the risks for not aligning in-store, online checkout, and payment successfully?
I think the biggest risk is that you lose the shopper and you lose their loyalty because shoppers they're not really loyal to retailers, they're loyal to experiences. And so as they're thinking about, where to put their dollars, they're looking for those consistent experiences that align with their values. And I think you lose trust if there's like too many steps, maybe the shopper would opt out or defect to a competitor that maybe has a little bit of a smoother process or a smoother checkout process. I think most importantly, shoppers really need to be able to check out where they're at, and we have to meet the shopper where they're at. So, for example, making sure that we have checkout and options available on social media, on online marketplaces, through AI answer engines. For a while, Nordstrom Rack here in Seattle was piloting that you could check out with any associate in the store with their phone. Just really meeting that shopper where they're at, I think, is so critical, and if you don't do that, I think you really risk losing the shopper.
Yeah, great. Mark, give it to me straight over here. What are the risks of not aligning them successfully?
The risk here is pretty simple. It's lost revenue, it's lost repeat business. Does the retailer stay in business? I mean, it's so critical. The success of the retailer is directly tied to optimizing the journey for the consumer. They have to get it right. I mean, there's so many examples over the years where retailers have gone out of business because they missed what the consumer experience or journey really needed to be. So this is something that's critical for the success of any retailer.
Yeah, I love that. Just such a simple calculus. It's it truly is. And, I'll just put a little footnote on this. Coming from a spot of at the science project and myself independently over the years, designed so many different great retail experiences, fabulous, innovative, 3D holograms, stores of the future over the years. But if you're not building an experience on a solid, stable data foundation, all retail struggles. If that checkout and that payment processing is not dependable, consistent, and fast, then all of the world of incredible shopping experiences are not going to be able to help. So, building that consistent customer data record, making sure it's segmented, that we understand who they are online, in store, so we can personalize, just so important. But checkout and payments really keep them comfortable and coming back. So I appreciate that, keeping it simple, building strong and stable. Paula, you really spend a lot of time in store. What are some of the payment friction points that you're seeing?
Well, unfortunately, there's a bunch, and we are working through them. But some just off the top is really, not everybody has the split payment options. I spoke about it earlier. Buy now, pay later is really the hot topic, the Klarnas of the world, and not every retailer has really, grabbed onto that. A lot of retailers have slow or outdated POS systems. And so that, makes the transaction drain on, and it's longer for the customer. Talked about it earlier too. Associates not trained on all types of how to handle things. They're not confident at the checkout process. It slows it down. It's clunky, and it really lends itself to not a great customer experience. Also, there's connectivity issues in stores. I'm sure many of us have gone into a store and wanted to get our Wi-Fi and look at things, and you can't connect. Well, guess what? That impacts the POS system in store as well. And so there's slow POS systems. And Andrea mentioned it. Not everyone has really grabbed onto the self checkout and mobile checkout. Many retailers, especially a lot of the big box, have not. Zara's done a great job with the self checkout, and there's a few other specialty retailers. But when you think big box, you think off price. Not everybody is there yet. And so these are some of the top friction points that exist out there today.
Yeah, awesome. Mark, how can retailers leverage solutions to enhance security and improve overall customer experience? I mean, this is just an evolving question constantly, and it'll continue to, sort of dog the retail experience and payments.
Yeah. I mean, I think a retailer's brand is directly tied to their customer's perception of security. And if they're buying something and they don't feel comfortable with that payment experience because of security concerns, you could lose them. I think if a customer hears about skimmers, which are issues with payment devices that happen in the marketplace, or a security breach, I mean, that really can impact negatively the retailer's view with their customers. So, I mean, I think a retailer should be really choosing payments partners that can help guide them through the security best practices. They may not be the experts, but lean on others that can help with providing that insight, as well as what key security technologies. One example, which is it's tokenization. This actually helps to improve security of the transaction around the credit card information, but then it also enables more of a seamless experience from online to in store, where someone can pay and it's going to be under the same token. So that's an example where, yeah, security can come into play and really help with providing a better experience at the same time.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, obviously, choosing a good, strong payments provider is just so important over there. It just strikes me as such a challenge for retailers and for you guys to be able to innovate and at the same time just be such a strong, stable, and secure solution. Really have to keep it moving forward and stay on the cutting edge, like you're talking about with tokens, but then also not, experiment too heavily that you you make mistakes.
Yeah, you don't want to make mistakes around security. That can impact a retailer significantly. So you got to get it right. So
Yeah. Yeah. This is always a favorite question, and I have to ask people because everyone has their eyes on different brands out there, but different brands do this in different ways. What's an example of a brand that's bridging physical and digital checkout gap really well? Andrea, you come from a really interesting perspective on this. Let's start with you.
I mean, I think checkout can be a competitive edge relative to other retailers. And so I think that there are some really exciting things happening in the space and some retailers that are adopting some pretty forward-thinking technologies. I mean, we talked out a little bit already about Amazon and how they've got new formats around paying with your palm in the Whole Foods store. And also, they've been doing sort of the subscribe and save or replenishment based ordering for a long time now. But I think that that there are some new things that are kind of becoming table stakes that not all retailers have really adopted yet. And I think, I think everyone on this call, Paula and Mark, you've mentioned some of these things in the previously, but just the ability for a retailer to consolidate in your digital account both your in-store and your online purchases. Nordstrom does a great job of that. But some of the other retailers, and particularly in specialty and fashion, sort of haven't caught up to that yet. So, you can't go to one place and see your entire order history and manage returns that way, and that sort of thing. I think that's becoming table stakes. I think really getting more sophisticated and self checkout is also becoming table stakes. You've got Sam's Club kind of piloting some of the just walk out technology, and then Circle K is doing the self checkout, but instead of you having to scan the item, you just put it on an image based platform and it tells you, it already knows what the item is, which is taking a lot of lift off of the shopper, and a lot of burden off of the shopper. So I think some of these things are becoming more table stakes, in terms of bridging those gaps. And then there's some really forward thinking stuff, when you think about palm payments and things like that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Um, Mark, let's go to you. Who are some of your favorites that you think are bridging the checkout gap really well?
Yeah, so I think one the top of mind is Apple, and Apple's really they've streamlined the experience for a consumer making a purchase, and it's interesting because it's really an extension of the user experience. So you get an Apple product, you have a great experience. Well, they've extended it to the buying. Recently, I went and I bought a new MacBook Air, and it was really interesting, all the different paths I could choose how I wanted to potentially purchase and get the product. I could go into the store, and again, not in a lane or self-checkout. I could talk to a store associate anywhere in the store, and they have a mobile-based payment solution, and they could take it and give me the product right then and there, which is great, to see a great use case for mobility. But you know what? If I didn't want to do it in the store, I could order online, and then I could pick it up in store, or I could have it shipped to me. So they've really thought through all the different options. So whatever consumer you want and path you want to choose, you can take it. And again, it's really the beginning of that experience with Apple, but they've done a great job, with just really thinking through all the potential scenarios that a consumer might want.
Yeah, two great ones. I'll just I'll just mention two really digitally native brands and retailers over there that, obviously have really strong technology enterprises underpinning the experience. I'm wondering if we can find maybe somebody who may not be digitally and technically such a native. And Paula, I know you come from real retail background. Do you have any that are, your favorites, that have maybe come from a different place and have had to rebuild an experience, that online in-store experience and are bridging it really well?
Yeah, I mean, I can just kind of reference someone who also is doing it well is Nike, and they're really doing a great job with their in-store retail app. You can go in store, you can scan barcodes, you can check product availability, you can read reviews, you can purchase from there, you can walk out of the store with them, you could have them delivered. I know this just from personal experience and shopping the competition when I'm in these markets and malls. And they really do a great job. Associates do have the mobile devices, so you can purchase from there. They've done a great job linking their customer loyalty program to this app, and that's so important. I mean, when you think of the two buzzwords, in the industry this year, it's customer loyalty programs and personalization. And if you can really be the masters of these two new ideologies out there for the customer, you're going to win. And I think Nike has done a great job at both, really personalizing the experience for you with their in-store online app and also linking their amazing customer loyalty program.
I want to just double click on that really quick, Paula. I totally agree about the Nike example. And I think it's really interesting because they've pulled back from a lot of retail this year to do it themselves. And I think it's really interesting to see what a brand does when they are in charge of the retail experience, right? And how connected they make it feel, because Nike does a really nice job understanding who their shopper is.
Yeah, they really have. I feel like they put a lot of time into it and they've really made it a focus for them. They understand how critical it is to really link that omni-channel experience, that seamless checkout, seamless searching for a product and information. And so, yeah, very impressed with their in-store and omni-channel app and what they can do.
Funny enough, we did the science project. We did a lot of that direct to consumer brand strategy for Nike for many years, and it was unsurprising. They were just such a great organization to work with, and they spoke the same brand language through and through. And that was really that they wanted to speak to their customer, who they call an athlete. They're envisioning your victory and your success. So they understood that they needed to build that bridge, and they had a real vision for how they wanted to speak to their athlete direct to consumer. So great one. And one of my favorites as well. It's a dynamic road ahead, obviously, and payments, checkout opportunities, journeys are all going to become more and more flexible, more and more dynamic. I mean, how do we think that these expectations that customers are going to literally want to be able to interact with a brand, a product, and check out anywhere and everywhere? How is this going to impact retail in the future? Andrea, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the future of checkout is, at least on the digital side, is moving toward AI. And if you think about now, it's like something like 80% of shoppers are using AI at some point during their shopping journey, whether it's, doing upstream research and now a lot of the AI platforms, Perplexity and ChatGPT, offer checkout options. And so, it's just, I think it's a different occasion. It's a different use case. But I think especially if you're looking for something complicated or you're trying to run a complicated search or you have a lot of requirements, I think particularly in the fashion space where discovery is just really challenging online, a lot of the keywords that you might use to search out like a balloon sleeve waist defined dress, like those keywords don't exist in the text anywhere. And some retailers are doing a good job of using AI to sort of fuel some of that search on their own websites. But I think that the real future of transactions are going to be through AI. The challenge will be for AI to make that experience feel as visually stimulating for us as some of the online retailers have done. But even Amazon's site, they've turned their search over to a more AI based search in recent months, and they're reporting that like millions and billions of people are using their Rufus AI shopping agent to ask questions about products and make sure that they know what they're getting. So I really see the future of it there. I mean, I have 3 teenagers, and AI is their go to now for for any kind of search at all. That's where they start.
Just the beginning there. And will be interesting as somebody who's worked a lot in fashion and luxury and premium brands, how that experience, that brand and product experience will present present itself. Mark, how about you? With more flexibility in the future, how do these expectations impact retail?
I think consumers want to pay the way they want to pay. I mean, again, years ago, it used to be only credit and debit card. That was your choice. Now there's a proliferation of different types of payment methodologies, which is great for the consumer, because now they can pick the one that they want to use. And I don't see this slowing down. I think it's going to be more new technologies. In fact, I mean, even stablecoin, which is something that's starting to get a more momentum in the market, that could become another payment method that isn't really used today. I think the challenge for the retailers are by adding these new payment types, it adds complexity to the implementation. It's not as simple as maybe a credit debit transaction. You may have a different path or different integration that has to be taken into account. It also can change the consumer journey, that experience. I mean, you look at buy now, pay later, which has been in the market for some time. Many retailers have implemented it online, and it's fairly easy to do and doesn't have as much of an impact necessarily with the experience. But when you try to bring it in store, there's additional technology hurdles that have to be overcome or just integration effort. And then the retailer has to think about the journey, because if a consumer wants to do buy now, pay later, that has to be quick. They can't fill out a big form and delay the transaction as well as make all the other people behind them late or too slow. So retailers really have to think about what's the journey going to be like, and how do they need to adjust maybe how they're addressing the consumers in their stores today.
Yeah, part and parcel for sure. Paula, how about you? What are the payment being, continuing to be flexible? How do you think these expectations will impact retail in the near future?
I mean, I think what we're seeing out in the retail landscape right now between all, big box specialty is really inconsistency with how you check out. And really there's many retailers that are ahead of their curve. They are change agents and they are the frontline winners with that. There are many that are still, behind and are using a lot of the older methods. And I think, Andrea spoke about it. AI is here to stay. How are you integrating that in the checkout experience for your customer? How are you remaining relevant to the customer in brick and mortar? Because if they're crossing your lease line, if they're coming into your store, they want to buy. Right. I always say people don't go to Starbucks to just look at coffee. They're going to Starbucks to buy coffee. So if they're crossing your lease line, if they're walking in your store, they want to buy. They want a seamless experience, start to finish, and they want we call it the goodbye kiss with the checkout experience, and we want that to be the best part of the experience. And I think that many retailers may have to kind of reinvent their checkout experience to remain relevant and frontline winners and to gain that market share. So I think they're going to have to invest. There's a lot of retailers out there, all sizes, that may have to invest. And for sure the biggest investment is training their teams. I can't talk about that enough, because again, we can make all the great strategies in the world, but if we're not carrying them across the finish line and making sure our teams are confident and they feel good and they can work their way quickly through all of these great platforms, we're going to lose the customer. So I think there's still work to be done, and really, there's inconsistency out there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, customers are so delightfully frustrating. I think it's, for the last, I mean, how many years of innovation? It's, you know, in conversations, you can talk about all different kinds of technologies, but customers still remain changing and evolving and dynamic. We know that those expectations keep changing. What can retailers do to make sure that their checkout investments that they're making today don't become tomorrow's headaches? Andrea?
Yeah, I guess I would say don't overinvest in any one technology. I mean, really thinking about designing for adaptability. So, investing in kind of more modular systems or things that are API based from a payment system perspective that will allow them to grow with your business. And I think thinking really about test and learns and continually revisiting that shopper and what the shopper is looking for, and listen to what the shopper is telling you and what they're saying about your checkout experience. So, like, for example, if you look at Amazon, they're constantly on the back end of their website A/B testing different checkout flows, and are just a really iterative kind of company culture to begin with. So I think it's really about iteration versus like a set it and forget it. So for example, if you think self checkout is the next big thing, don't renovate every single one of your stores and create an enormous self checkout system tied in today's technology or yesterday's technology. If maybe image based technology is going to be the next thing. So I think really thinking about how can you create upgradable systems.
Yeah. Awesome. Mark, I mean, I need to ask you, advanced payment systems like tap to pay, it's got to be daunting to be a smaller mid-tier retailer. What advice can you offer for retailers looking to get on top of these types of solutions and implement these solutions quickly and efficiently?
I would have retailers look to partners that have the knowledge and experience with numerous implementations. Think about it from a mid-sized retailer. They're doing maybe a new payment system every. I mean, you could update it every couple of years, but it's probably 5 or 6 years. So it's a long period of time, and they don't necessarily see or are able to keep up with everything that's going on. By leveraging a partner that may do hundreds of these implementations a year, they can lean on that partner for kind of that experience, that knowledge, and make sure that they don't go down the wrong path. So you really want to choose someone that can help guide them, because it is complex. I mean, it's always interesting when people say payments, we make payments easy. It's like payments is very complex. We just have to work through it so it can get implemented. But it's not simple, and I think that's really where leveraging partners that can have that experience, so they can lean on 'em, whether it's in the U.S. or even global. That's the one thing we see a lot of. It's like maybe someone's figured it out in the U.S. market, and now they want to go to other countries. And payments is different in other countries. It's not the same. Even if you go a little bit north of here in Canada, I mean, the payment ecosystem is a very, very different environment. So that's why I think leveraging partners can really help them be successful.
I'm sure it's still really nice to hear you make payments simple, even if you know the pain.
Yeah, I laugh when I hear that, because it's a tough one. It really is. I mean, I mean, Ingenico's been doing this for 40 plus years, and we try to strive for that. But payments is still complex. So even if we were able to simplify a few things, there's other things that just are more difficult to change.
Yeah, outstanding. All right. So, what advice are we going to give to retailers, our expert panel over here, to integrate multi channel payment systems? I mean, what's the first step towards improvement? We all spend so much time reading about this, going to conferences, talking to people. What's that first step? Andrea, let's start with you.
I think it really comes down to starting with the shopper again and mapping out their journey. So, what is important to the shopper is, based on kind of the type of retail environment you're trying to create. Do they want to have fun? Are they looking to get in and out? Is it more of a convenience and speed situation? Are they really going to be more focused on having like a high customer service type of experience that feels very hands on and special? And then is it different in store and online? So if you think about a retailer like Sephora, I think they do a great job of having a really differentiated in store and online experience. As you go through the checkout in store, you walk through the minis aisle of all the little sample sizes of all of the products, and you have a chance to have fun through the checkout. You don't mind being in a queue for longer, and their checkout lines can be kind of long. Whereas online, you get a chance to choose different samples that you want included in your shipment. You have access to like all of your stored payment methods. In both experiences, you have access to the loyalty program. So I think it's just really about understanding your specific shopper and what they want out of that checkout experience. And there are so many ways now to listen to the shopper. There's social listening technologies, and I mean, you can just go on Reddit and see what shoppers are saying about your checkout experience. So I think that's the kind of the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark?
So I would agree with Andrea. I think the retailer has to understand the consumer journey, but that consumer journey will influence what the implementation and overall payment solution will look like. But you got to get the journey right. I think the second thing that retailers need to keep in mind is choose payments partners that can help them throughout the life cycle of implementation. It's not just about getting it right initially, but what will this look like in 2, 3, 4 years? Because as the consumer and the market evolves, having the ability to adapt is key for the retailer's success.
Yeah. Excellent. Paula?
Well, I think we can all agree that it definitely starts with the customer. I'm always, again, going to share field perspective. I would say to all of the retailers, get out into your stores, get out into competitor stores, get out into different kind of stores, buy something. What does it feel like? The experience is very different, for all of the retailers. So, walk in that customer's shoes and see what that feels like, start to finish, and all kinds, again, all big box, specialty, off price. And off price, many of one of their techniques is the enunciator. And so the enunciator system isn't so much for the person in line, it's for the person who might get in line, because they're going to hear ding, register 4, ding, register 5. That enunciator is to let people know as they're filling up their carts, oh, it's moving quickly. There's a good pace. All right, let me keep shopping. I'm not going to have to wait in line, right? Because one of the biggest pain points for customers is the line when we talk about checkout, right? All of what we're talking about is how to make it more smooth and for the customer. So, that's one of the tactics that you'll see in off price. See, and it is in a few big box, but that's one of the pieces of it. But go out, walk the stores, experience what your customers are experiencing, come back, really reflect, take that perspective and that information and really think about how you can change it. I love, all the GPTs and AI, but not everything can be fed into ChatGPT and solved. Some of it, and many great retailers and mentors of mine say, the secret sauce is in the stores. You're going to find your answer in the stores. So that's always going to be my lean into. I'm in the stores. That's my background. Get into the stores, feel it, experience it. And then let's go back to our little incubator and how can we make it better?
I mean, Paula, it's such a great point. I'm smiling because I think back many years ago, the Science Project, we were doing some of the most inventive work out there, digital storefronts, digital windows. And I really wanted to understand retail through and through and the people who really built retail the last generation of great retail. And that's why I spoke to as many professionals as I could from so many different generations that have excelled in retail. And they said the exact same thing: get in the stores and understand. But, I don't think, getting to know your customers just so important. And there's nothing like that store experience to understand them.
Yep.
So,
All the answers are in the stores. I learned that from my very first day at Macy's executive training program, one of the best in the industry and still is. The answers in the stores.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's an ever increasing retail landscape out there. And, I think that getting to know your customers is simply like, a stable thing, the same way that checkouts and payments need to provide that really strong, stable experience. Getting to know your customers is always such a great idea. So thank you guys for this. This was absolutely amazing and such a great kind of range of answers from Paula, from Andrea, and from Mark, who all come from different sides of this retail landscape that we're all building. So really appreciate it. I think that, you've all brought in, a lot of different insights. And yeah, thank you very much from the Rethink team.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
My pleasure.